Okay, welcome to basically chapter 1 of the Kanji Master textbook. It's literally called Kanji Master. So Kanji Master N5 Introduction to Kanji. And we're starting at the very beginning for this one. I'm in a class where we're going over chapter 9 at the moment, and we sort of skipped to chapter 8 to begin with, but I want to review chapter 1 to 7 just because there's a lot of stuff that I feel I don't really know. I just happened to be in the second class because I could recognize some kanji. But okay, soji, which is basically numbers. In the first chapter, basically we have numbers 1 through 10, and then we also have 100 and 1000 as well as 10,000, and then the kanji symbol for yen. So let's go ahead and go over these. It's actually very, very easy, at least if you've ever encountered numbers in either Mandarin or Japanese. They're the same symbols, so I see them quite a lot. But let me actually try to do this in the right stroke order as well, so that I don't confuse anybody. So the stroke order that I'm using right now should be correct. I'm following the book, and I'm numbering from 1 to 10 at the moment. The hard part isn't really remembering the symbols, in my opinion. The hard part is like knowing how to read the symbols. So the thing about kanji is that there are 2 versions, or possibly more, depending on which kanji it is, of how to read it. And I think that's probably the hardest part about kanji, is that there isn't just one reading. So just try to keep that in mind, since that will definitely play a huge role in how much you actually know how to use the kanji versus just recognizing the meaning of the kanji. And I think that's probably something I need to work on a lot, since at the moment I kind of just know the meaning and very, very common usages. But learning both the On-yomi and Kun-yomi, basically the Japanese way of saying it and the Chinese way of saying it, or pronunciations, those are the 2 essential things that we'll go over in this lesson. And that's basically it. So here is 1 through 10, here's 100, here's 1000, here's 10,000, and this is the symbol for yen, or Japanese en. This is basically all of chapter 1. And again, I'm not going to go over too much of like the actual symbols and how to recognize them, since I think it's just memorization for the numbers. Those are pretty easy. Let's go over 100 actually. 100, 1000, and 10,000. Those ones are a bit more difficult, so I'll just highlight them a bit more. So the stroke order for 100 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in a way, if you sort of look at it sideways, it sort of looks like 100. So that's just one way to remember it. And here is 1000. 1, so it's right to left. 2, 3. 1000, I don't really have any tricks to remember it, but it's easy enough since it looks very, very similar to other characters. Actually, that kind of makes it harder, but anyways, moving on. 10,000. I feel like I have a harder time recognizing 10,000, but this is it right here. And then the yen symbol, you kind of see it everywhere, so it's pretty simple to recognize if you've ever been in Japan. Okay, so those 4 are probably the harder ones in this chapter to remember. And the basic way to practice this, at least for the book, is it has you write it at least 5 times. So there's just open squares for you. Why does it do that? Okay. There are just open squares. I don't know how to control this brush. I need to understand Procreate a little bit better. Anyways, and then you just literally just keep writing in the kanji over and over again for at least 5 times. Honestly, if you really want to get it memorized, you probably want to do this way more than 5 times. I'd say at least 20 times just writing it, probably in different sittings. Like, write this kanji, then proceed to the next one. I'll close my book so that I don't have any resources other than my memory. And then my goodness. Okay. My goodness. I swear this is not me. This is probably the speed. I have to go slower because if I go too fast, okay, I see. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to do this properly. Anyways, these look like the worst 1000s I've ever seen, but this is essentially what I would do or what I should do to practice. I don't quite do this yet. And then here's 10,000. I apologize if I get this wrong because again, 10,000 is a little bit more confusing to me. Okay, I think I'm gonna check so that I don't write it wrong a lot. It's correct except this right here. You gotta be careful with, intersections. You don't want to have it go over because, wrong stroke order. Because it could possibly mean something else if you were to like have the line cross over. So definitely be careful with that. The teacher made it a pretty big deal. The sensei made it a big deal not to like do that. So, okay, I'm gonna close the book again. Now I have a reference, so it's not as useful, but at least I'll practice the stroke order. And I seriously need to figure out this brush thing for the next lesson. But anyways, this is the process, and I'm pretty sure I have the right stroke order for this. So if not, I'll just check afterwards. Always good to check. Stroke order is probably not as important, to be honest, because at the end of the day, for me, I mostly care about reading. Well, number one priority for me is to just be able to talk in Japanese and listen and understand. So stroke order and all that stuff, it really doesn't matter. So, but if you're planning on writing a lot of kanji and not typing it, I guess in that case, like learn the stroke order. But for me, I think from this lesson and on, I'm not going to care too much about it. As long as it ends up looking like the right thing, then I will be satisfied. I wonder if I can just choose a different, because I created this one. Okay, I think I figured out the whole pen thing. So no more worries about that. But let's go ahead and try the kanji that are harder. So that's 100. And then let's do 1000. And then let's do 10,000. And finally, yen, or N. And that's the collection that's the hardest. Again, if this is completely brand new to you, then of course you're gonna want to write out these ones a lot as well, so that you have familiarity with basically how to write it and how to recognize them. I do think that writing it helps a lot with recognition, so that's essential. This is basically how I'm practicing at the moment, and hopefully that will help me improve by a lot. But the next step, which is, in my opinion, a lot harder than just recognition, is actually learning the On-yomi and Kun-yomi, which again are the Japanese pronunciations and Chinese pronunciations. So I actually have another tab that shows these, as you can see on right here, that we are at the kanji symbol for one, and it's pronounced ichi as well as hito. So the two pronunciations right here, the katakana one is basically the Chinese pronunciation, and the hiragana one is the Japanese pronunciation. But of course you don't really need to know that, as long as you understand which combinations of kanji create what like pronunciations, that's pretty much you're good. So basically what that means is if you find the kanji for one next to tsu, then it's going to be hitotsu. And then if you find it next to nichi, like this, then it's going to be ichinichi. And same for other things. So like this, ichimai. And if it's next to ko, that's not a two. It looks like a two. Okay, that looks more like a ko. So this is ikko. That's basically the hard part, right? Combining the kanji with other hiragana elements and knowing what to say. Yeah, that's the other part of this book, essentially. It shows you a lot of examples of each one and what to say. So I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but I'll say a couple of them that I feel are probably the most important. So hitotsu is definitely one of them. It just means like one thing. Oftentimes when you go to a restaurant and you order something, you just say like one of that thing, like let's say water, mizu o hitotsu, and you can say kudasai or onegai shimasu afterwards. And then same thing for futatsu. And I'm definitely writing my twos very weird. So apologies for that. So that's hitotsu, futatsu, and then we have, it gets more confusing after this. And then it continues on to, the fifth one always confuses me. It's itsutsu. It's weird to say and hard to remember, but itsutsu. So itsutsu is basically that. And then we have mutsu as 6, I believe. And then nanatsu for 7, yatsu for 8, kokonotsu for 9. And yeah, that's basically the whole sort of pattern of the lessons, is that it just goes over a lot of the different combinations of kanji and hiragana, mostly as of this moment. There's no like kanji combinations yet, or compound words that are made out of kanji quite yet. But once again, this would take a really, really long time if I went over every single example. But other than that, there are some like sentences in the book for examples as well. So for instance, it says, Sandoichi o hitotsu to kohi o futatsu onegai shimasu. Like, that's just a sentence. And I think it's good to read the sentences out loud to get some practice with it. 100 yen no kite 1 mae kudasai. Yeah, just reading them out loud and so forth. That's how I plan on practicing this book. I think for the next lessons, I'll definitely do more of the examples instead of just like outlining what the book is trying to do and outlining like the stroke order and stuff like that and how to practice, or how I'm planning on practicing, since I'm barely at the beginning. But yeah, the next lessons will probably be a lot more of that and examples instead of me highlighting stuff like that. I might actually just do another lesson some other day regarding these ones and go over more of the examples for these kanji characters, because I am not fully used to them quite yet. So it'd be a good idea to go over each example sentence, say it out loud, know for sure which combination is right, and so forth. And that's pretty much it for this one. So hopefully you guys can learn something new from this. It's sort of like less of a structured, super structured, organized type of lesson, and more so like my experience with how I'm learning Japanese at a language school. So everyone's gonna have a very different experience, especially since I'm starting with the second class, and I feel like there's a lot that I need to catch up on and really solidify if I want to have a good foundation. So most people from the first class probably aren't doing this because they're not even on kanji yet. So this is definitely something that is not as beginner friendly. So make sure that you know like your kana, make sure like your hiragana and katakana, and you want to also know just the basic grammar structures and everything if you want to understand sentences and some basic vocabulary as well. That's when I feel like these things will be more useful. Otherwise, like, you're just learning it in a vacuum. Okay, that's it for this one. I'll catch you guys in the next one.